Good morning/afternoon/evening, everyone. You know, life is a lot like an endurance race. It's not about how fast you start. It's about how strong you finish. But the toughest races, they aren't the ones through mountains, deserts, or miles of open water. The toughest race you'll ever run is the one against self-doubt, self-criticism, and the belief that you are not enough. Today, I want to talk about the most important teammate you will ever have, yourself. Loving yourself isn't a luxury, it's an endurance sport, and just like any race, it takes strategy, training, and the willingness to keep pushing when you'd rather quit. Think about the way elite athletes train. Their performance isn't just about physical strength, it's about mental discipline. They don't wake up every morning thinking, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, or I'm just not as talented as the others. No. They train their minds as rigorously as they train their bodies. They replace self-doubt with self-belief. They understand that their inner voice is either their greatest asset or their biggest obstacle. Now, let's bring that to you. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a stadium and your inner voice is the coach on the sidelines. What is that coach saying to you? Is it shouting words of encouragement? You've got this. Keep going. One more step. Or is it tearing you down? You're not strong enough. You'll never make it. Why even try? If you had a coach who constantly criticized you, who told you that you weren't enough, who made you feel like a failure before you even started, how long would you stick around? Not long, right? So why do we tolerate that voice inside our own heads? Loving yourself means becoming the coach you deserve. It means recognizing when negative self-talk creeps in and shutting it down like an elite athlete would. It means choosing words that fuel you instead of drain you. And no, this isn't about unrealistic positivity or ignoring challenges. It's about shifting your mindset from I can't to I can figure it out. From I'm not good enough to I'm learning and growing. From I failed to I gained experience. Athletes train their minds with affirmations, visualization, and relentless focus. Before they step onto the track, the field, or the court, they see themselves winning. They picture success before it happens. They train their brains to believe in themselves, so when the moment comes, there's no hesitation, only action. Now imagine if you did the same in your own life. Imagine waking up every morning and setting the tone for your day with empowering thoughts. Imagine catching negative self-talk in the act and redirecting it towards something that fuels you. Imagine treating yourself with the same level of patience, discipline, and encouragement as an athlete training for the Olympics. Because here's the truth, your biggest opponent isn't out there somewhere, it's in your own mind. And the good news, you have complete control over how you play that game. Train your inner voice to be your biggest cheerleader, your strongest ally, and the most reliable source of motivation you have. Because once your mind is in the right place, there's nothing you can't accomplish. One of the biggest traps we fall into is thinking that life is a competition, one where we have to measure our success, our worth, and our happiness against everyone around us. From the moment we're young, we're conditioned to compare grades in school, career achievements, relationships, financial status, appearances. It's as if there's some invisible scoreboard keeping track of who's ahead and who's falling behind. But here's the truth. There is no single race that everyone is running together. There is only your race, and it's uniquely yours. Imagine you're running a marathon. You trained for months. You set your own pace, and you have a personal goal in mind. But then, midway through, you start looking around. You notice someone sprinting ahead, someone who seems stronger, faster, and more prepared. Suddenly, you feel inadequate. You think, maybe I should be running faster. Maybe I'm not good enough. So you push yourself beyond what you're prepared for, trying to match someone else's pace. And what happens? You burn out, you get injured, you lose focus on why you started running in the first place. This is exactly what happens in life when we compete in races that aren't meant for us. We chase someone else's definition of success without asking ourselves if it's even what we truly want. We get caught up in the comparison game, constantly measuring our progress against people who have completely different journeys, different skills, different circumstances. And in doing so, we rob ourselves of the joy of our own unique path. Think about how much time and energy you've spent worrying about where you should be by now. Maybe you thought you'd have a certain job, a certain level of income, a certain type of relationship. And when you see others achieving those things, you start feeling like you're behind. But behind who? Behind what? There is no universal timeline. Life doesn't come with a playbook that says you must accomplish certain things by a certain age. Everyone is on their own timeline, facing their own battles, and moving at their own speed. So what would happen if you stopped looking sideways? If you focused only on your own journey, your own goals, and your own version of success? Imagine how much more fulfilling life would be if you weren't constantly trying to keep up with someone else's highlight reel. If you weren't exhausting yourself trying to fit into a mold that was never designed for you. Loving yourself means trusting your own pace. It means recognizing that success looks different for everyone. And just because someone else is thriving in their lane doesn't mean you're failing in yours. It means learning to celebrate others without feeling like their victories take anything away from you. The sun shines on everyone. It doesn't run out of light just because someone else is shining too. So from this moment on, give yourself permission to run your own race. Set your own goals, not ones influenced by what society or social media tells you should matter. Move at a pace that feels right for you, not the one dictated by external pressure. And most importantly, measure your progress only against yourself. If you're learning, growing, and improving, even in small ways, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Because the only race worth running is the one that leads you to your own happiness, not someone else's finish line. Your body and mind are the vehicles that carry you through life. Just like a high-performance machine, they need the right fuel, the right maintenance, and the right amount of rest to perform at their best. Yet so many of us treat our bodies and minds as if they are disposable, running on empty, overloading on stress, and expecting peak performance without proper care. Loving yourself means recognizing that you are in this for the long haul, and that requires being intentional about how you nourish and sustain yourself. Think about an endurance athlete preparing for a long race. They don't wake up and decide to push their body to the limit without preparation. They train, they hydrate, they eat in a way that fuels their body rather than depletes it. They understand that what they put in directly affects what they get out. If they load up on junk food, neglect their training, or fail to rest, their performance will suffer. The same principle applies to you. What you feed your body matters. It's not about dieting or deprivation, it's about nourishment. It's about choosing foods that give you lasting energy rather than quick highs followed by crashes. It's about drinking enough water, getting the right balance of nutrients, and listening to what your body needs rather than what society tells you to consume. When you fuel yourself properly, you don't just look better, you feel better. Your mind is clearer, your energy is more stable, and you're able to show up for life fully present and engaged. But fueling yourself isn't just about food. Your mind needs nourishment too. What are you feeding your thoughts? Are you consuming negativity, comparison, and self-doubt? Are you scrolling through social media, measuring yourself against curated versions of other people's lives and wondering why you don't feel fulfilled? Or are you choosing to fill your mind with things that inspire you, challenge you, and make you grow? Just like your body, your mind thrives on good fuel, whether that's uplifting conversations, inspiring books, creative outlets, or moments of stillness to recharge. And then there's rest. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle, exhaustion, and pushing beyond limits. But let me tell you something, burnout is not a trophy. It's not a sign of success. It's a sign that you are running yourself into the ground. Rest is not a weakness, it's a necessity. Athletes know that recovery days are just as important as training days because that's when growth happens. Your mind and body need time to repair, recharge, and rebuild. Loving yourself means treating yourself with the same care and respect that you would an elite athlete preparing for the most important race of their life. Because in many ways, you are. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you want to go the distance, you need to fuel yourself in a way that sustains you, not just for today, but for every challenge, every opportunity, and every victory that lies ahead. The people you surround yourself with have a profound impact on your mindset, your energy, and ultimately your success. Whether you realize it or not, the voices you hear the most, your friends, family, colleagues, become the soundtrack to your life. And if that soundtrack is filled with doubt, negativity, or criticism, it's only a matter of time before you start believing it yourself. That's why choosing the right team, the right support system, is one of the most important acts of self-love you can commit to. Think about any great athlete, leader, or adventurer. None of them got to where they are alone. Behind every champion, there's a coach, a mentor, a support system that pushes them forward when they feel like quitting. No one achieves greatness in isolation. And yet so many of us try to go it alone, carrying the weight of our struggles without reaching out for support. We convince ourselves that asking for help is a sign of weakness, when in reality, it's one of the strongest things we can do. Now, take a moment and think about the people in your life. Do they inspire you? Do they challenge you to be better? Do they celebrate your wins and lift you up when you fall? Or do they drain your energy, belittle your dreams, and make you question your worth? Because here's the truth. The people you spend the most time with will either propel you forward or hold you back. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, doubt, or settle for less, that mindset will rub off on you. But if you surround yourself with people who believe in growth, resilience, and the power of possibility, you will start to believe in those things too. It's not about cutting people out of your life cruelly. It's about making conscious choices about who you give your time and energy to. Some people are meant to be in your life for a season, and that's okay. Growth sometimes means outgrowing relationships that no longer serve you. It's not personal, it's necessary. And let's talk about the kind of teammates you should seek. Look for people who celebrate your progress, not just your success. The ones who push you to take that next step, even when you're scared. The ones who remind you who you are when you forget. True teammates aren't just there when things are easy, they're there when things get tough. They hold you accountable, but they also remind you of your strength. And just as important as having the right people around you is being the right kind of teammate to others. Support is a two-way street. If you want encouragement, be encouraging. If you want positivity, be positive. If you want people to believe in you, believe in them. The best teams are built on mutual trust, respect, and the willingness to lift each other higher. Loving yourself means choosing to be part of a team that helps you rise. It means stepping away from toxic relationships that diminish you and moving toward connections that empower you. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to go through life alone. But you do have to be intentional about who you bring on the journey with you. Too often, we reserve celebration for the big moments, the major milestones, the life-changing achievements, the public victories. We tell ourselves that we'll be proud when we land the dream job, when we lose the weight, when we finally reach that perfect version of ourselves that we've built up in our minds. But what about the smaller wins? The ones that don't come with applause, recognition, or fireworks. The ones that happen quietly in the middle of our ordinary days. Loving yourself means recognizing that progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's getting out of bed on a day when everything feels heavy. Sometimes it's saying no to something that doesn't serve you, even when it's difficult. Sometimes it's taking the first step towards something new, even if you have no idea how it's going to turn out. These moments might seem small, but they are proof that you are moving forward, growing, and becoming stronger. And that deserves to be celebrated. Think about an endurance race. The finish line isn't the only thing that matters. The journey itself is made up of countless checkpoints along the way. If a runner only acknowledged the final moment of victory and ignored every water station, every mile marker, every moment where they pushed through exhaustion and self-doubt, they'd miss the beauty of the race itself. Life is the same way. The big moments matter, but the small victories, they are what keep you going. And here's the thing, when you celebrate small wins, you train your brain to recognize progress. You start to see how far you've come instead of focusing on how far you still have to go. You build confidence, resilience, and motivation to keep pushing forward. Every time you acknowledge a win, no matter how minor, it reinforces the belief that you are capable, that you are improving, and that you are worthy of pride. But what does celebrating these wins actually look like? It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as taking a deep breath and giving yourself credit for the effort you put in. It can be writing down something you accomplish each day, no matter how small, so that you can look back and see your progress over time. It can be treating yourself to something you enjoy, sharing your success with a friend, or even just pausing for a moment to say, I did that. And that matters. The mistake we often make is believing that we need permission to celebrate, that we need someone else to validate our success before we acknowledge it ourselves. But you don't have to wait for anyone else to tell you that you're doing great. You get to decide that. You get to own your progress, no matter how imperfect or unfinished it may seem. So start celebrating yourself, not just when you reach the peak of the mountain, but with every step you take along the way, because the journey is long. And the more you acknowledge your progress, the more motivated you'll be to keep climbing. Every win counts. Every step matters. And so do you. So here's the truth. Loving yourself isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's about choosing to be on your own team. It's about running the race at your own pace and trusting that step by step, you are exactly where you need to be. So lace up, get out there and run your race, because no one else can do it like you. Thank you.